How's it going, everybody? This is Brian Funk, and I want to tell you about my brand new free Ableton Live pack called Birds of Prey. This is my 200th free Ableton Live pack that you can get at my site, brianfunk.com, and it's made from samples of different birds of prey. I used an owl, a red-tailed hawk, and a juvenile bald eagle. And all of those samples were recorded near my house, and I turned them into these different instruments. Right now, I'll let you hear the bald eagle's instrument. And each one of the instruments has controls that you can use to change the sound pretty drastically. Put some chorus on there and some delay. I'll take you to the hawk strings. Open up the filter a little bit so you can hear some of the high energy. Throw in a little chorus. And let's move over to my owl pluck. Bring in a little chorus. We can bring up the sustain, and now it's no longer a pluck at all. So you have a lot of control over how these sounds work. There's 8 in total, including a drum rack. I think they're really cool. It's made from some awesome sounds from some awesome birds. So check it out. It's the Birds of Prey free Ableton Live pack number 200. It's available at my site, brianfunk.com. How's it going, everybody, and welcome to the Music Production Podcast. On today's show, I have Niraj Naik, and Niraj has got a really interesting story for us musically, from his background in the music industry to where he is today making therapeutic music, which I enjoyed the term you gave me before, the digital pills, so yeah. I think, from the work that you've done with Breathwork, you've made all the music for the Wim Hof Method. I'm very excited to talk to you about music production, but also maybe learn a little bit more about some of these therapeutic purposes, because we all know music is very powerful, but I think you're looking into that on a much deeper level. So I'm excited to hear a bit about that. So welcome to the show, Niraj.
Absolute pleasure to be here. Nice.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. And as I mentioned before to you, and I'll just say to everyone that may be listening, you can consider me a complete beginner on all of this stuff. I have some interest, obviously, in music production, but the meditation stuff is something I've been getting into a little bit on a small level. But the breath work is interesting to me, and just the power of music in general and how you're using that. I'm excited to learn about.
Cool. I can't wait to share it with you. It's definitely to inspire a new audience as well.
Yeah.
Because I like to meet new people and spread the word, of what we've discovered.
Nice. So can you tell me how you got started? Because I think you come from more traditional musical backgrounds, and then you've branched off and found this new purpose in your work. Maybe you can just take us on that journey for a minute.
Sure. So actually, years ago, when I was 17, 18 years old, this was back in 97, I got really into drum and bass music. And the old school kind of rave music back then, house music and things like that. And I ended up actually running a rave for 3 years while I was at university. It was 2,000 people rave every month for 3 years. It was wild time. It was the peak of this kind of underground music scene that was thriving in England. And I spotted a trend with drum and bass. I was into it quite early on before it became as popular as it is today. And what I loved about it as well was this fact that people used to go there like it was church. It was the celebration. Each month, people would like save up all their money to come and attend and like celebrate life with all these people under one roof. And the music was just amazing, and the light shows and the smoke screens. And, you know, it was the first time this kind of stuff had really started to take off in a big way. These like really powerful laser productions and you know, just the kind of atmosphere that you can create with good music and passion and you know, energy. I mean, I'm getting goosebumps just remembering those times back then. But one thing led to another in the end. Actually, I ended up I was actually doing a pharmacy degree at university, and I pretty much lost this whole event. One thing led to another, and I ended up working as a pharmacist, you know, finishing my degree and becoming a pharmacist. And that was a huge shock to the system. Like, it was a really depressing time. And it wasn't something that I wanted to do. I had no intention of becoming a pharmacist. I always thought I was going to become a DJ and take off and all this. And here's the thing, like, the culture I'm from, like, is very academic focused. And I was very much the black sheep of the family. So to do anything musical as a career was already way outside the box. And, you know, instead of like just going full in to doing and saving this event and making a career out of music, I succumbed to education. But it actually happened to be a blessing in disguise, because it helped me so much later on in my life, because I realized what the healthcare system really is. You know, from a spiritual perspective, I realized that this was actually doing a serious disservice to humanity, because the whole is an industry. So what the pharmaceutical industry does is it basically creates sickness and maintains sickness. If you look at it like from that kind of perspective, you could see, and maybe it's, you know, that's not, they don't even realize they're doing it, but it makes a lot of money, right? But that system of just churning out pills, and literally people go away with shopping bags full of drugs. And musicians, I think you can relate to this. We see things sometimes that other people don't see. We feel things. We're a bit more sensitive. And I just couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle seeing so many sick people and feeling helpless, not doing anything about it. And then what happened was I actually ended up getting extremely depressed. And I mean, I was already really hedonistic, but I taken it to a whole nother level when I became a pharmacist. And I was just burnt out. I was sick. I was run down. And I ended up going to a Tony Robbins event. A friend bought me a ticket. And I'd never dreamed of going to something like this. You know, it wasn't cool at all. But I went. And actually, it was one of the best things I ever did. And on the last day, it's the first time I heard anyone actually talk about health and how you can fix your well-being with just diet and different lifestyle changes and even prevent disease, things that you're not taught at all at pharmacy. So I was like, okay, at the pharmacy, I've got so many sick people coming in. I can put Tony Robbins to the test. You know, if what he's saying is true, okay, I can test it out. First, I started testing it on me, and then I started testing it on patients. And I ended up getting really good success getting people off medications just by changing their lifestyle, making simple diet changes. I was writing these healthy shopping lists and giving them out to patients. So I knew that there was something in this wellness stuff. And I ended up actually, long story short, I got promoted to the head office of one of the biggest corporations in the UK, which has a grocery and a pharmacy section. And I came up with this concept of giving out healthy shopping lists that pharmacists would give, or would have a web-based service to give out custom food and diet plans. This was quite unique in 2010. People were still unaware so much about diet back in it was still quite renegade what I was doing. But 6 months into it, boom, they shelved the idea, and I got so disillusioned. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that humanity would allow this to happen, you know, that I just felt this void with spirit, and it just killed my connection, because I tried so hard to make a difference. You know, that's another thing I think with music. We do it because we're doing it to make a difference in the world. Most real musicians, in my opinion, do music because they want to create a change in the world, you know, with the lyrics, with the passion in the music. They're trying to tell a story. They're trying to paint an image of reality and, you know, according to their will and what they feel. And basically, I just couldn't believe that this was going on. I could see there was a big block in the corporate world. So I just got extremely depressed, and boom, I got hit with a chronic illness, and it left me housebound for almost a year. I had this autoimmune condition called ulcerative colitis. Literally, you're going to the toilet like 40 times a day. It's horrible. And I lost like something like a third of my body weight. It was insane.
Wow.
So I thought I was going to die. I really thought this was it. And actually, I did a lot of soul searching during this time. Like, what is the meaning of this reality? Why are we here? What's the point of all this suffering? You know, what is the point of human beings? And I heard this one quote from Terence McKenna, which was, if you take away all the music and art on this planet, you know, what else has human done of any real value? You know, seriously, you take away all of that. Well, what else are humans here for? What was their purpose? What was their meaning there in this existence? You know, so I really knew that we are deep down creative. That's what we're supposed to be. We're creative beings, and we've been sucked into a robotized world and a system of living that is just not natural. It's not what we're really born to be. And actually, like, during my 20s, I become very close friends with this guy, Safdar Jaffrey. And unfortunately, he passed away. Around the time I also got sick. It was just a little while after I got better, he had a brain tumor and he died. But this guy was a really inspirational music producer, manager of music producers. And he managed and discovered a band called Muse, you may have heard of. And he was like my mentor and one of my best friends, and we did lots of crazy stuff. And he took me into the music industry to have a look into it. And I was working with him as an A&R for some things. And he also really liked the music that I produce. But it was really unusual kind of music to what you'd normally hear in the mainstream. And he didn't know quite what to do with it. And the music I made was really trippy, but it had a lot of heart and soul to it. So there was something in it that he really liked. But the more I got into this commercial music industry, the more I realized how kind of soulless, depressing the whole thing had become, you know. And that was in itself like heartbreaking, because I was like, do I really want to work in this environment? And then I'm also working as a pharmacist, and I just knew that I really wanted to do something worthwhile. I wanted to make a difference. And so in this time, I actually realized like that basically I've got to do something within this, because in the pharmacy industry, like, there was so much pain, and I was suffering the pain now as well, and it made me go really deep. And they say God stands for gift of desperation, but I was at such a desperate moment in my life. I was like literally praying, and a close friend of my family came, and it's called Swami Ambikananda. She's a yoga teacher in the UK. And she basically said, look, you've got a gift here yourself. If you can heal yourself from this illness, you could be an amazing role model. You can inspire a lot of other people, especially with your background as a pharmacist. And so she started to teach me the basics of pranayama and Ayurveda and yoga, and use as a therapeutic use to actually bring yourself back into balance. Because according to Ayurvedic system, disease is a spiritual disturbance, and you've gone off balance. It's an unresolved emotions. Like, quite often, chronic disease can be things like anger, fear, resentment, jealousy, envy, these horrible emotions that can just burn inside you like a fire. And that can cause this malfunction to your nervous system and then autoimmune diseases. So I just started to follow her advice, and it also made me go back into music. I started to listen to a lot of this kind of Indian music with meditations, and I found lots of benefits from this. And I actually started to listen to a lot of this kind of brainwave music that was on YouTube as well. And I started to actually get back into making music. And one thing I realized about old kind of like dance music and trance music was this the grooves are so hypnotic. If you took away the drums, you'd be left with this really hypnotic music, right? That just has a groove to it, locks you in. And actually, if you get the right tempos, you can actually alter brainwaves and calm the nervous system down just by listening to this kind of music. And they've actually done studies, scientists have done studies on different types of music and how it affects your cortisol levels, your adrenaline levels. And they've actually found that classical Baroque music is some of the best for the brain, for the cognitive function of your brain. So music's already been shown scientifically to have different benefits, different styles and different genres and moods. And definitely music that resonates with you, that you feel a lot of joy from, actually helps lower your blood pressure, bring your body more into a homeostasis. So I was getting a lot of pleasure from this kind of music, and I started to make it. And I started to put this pranayama breathing to it as well. So in pranayama, which is really like a pharmacy of different breathing techniques, there are a few different breathing techniques which alters your autonomic nervous system. So you can switch your heart rate, you can turn it up, you can turn it down, you can influence your immune system. There's all these different kind of rhythms with the breath. And nobody had, I didn't think, thought of it at the time, was actually using the music as a timing tool for the breath. So I started to play around with timing my breath to the beats and breathing in different rhythms with the music. And it was working like medicine. Seriously, it was like magical medicine. So I actually ended up building a whole business, online business. I read this book called 4-Hour Workweek, which tells you how to build a automated business around your passion. And my passion was like this music stuff. And so I started building this therapy business, and I suddenly like had this income stream which literally ran pretty hands-free. So it was hard work in the beginning. You have to work really hard in the beginning. But once it's set up, like, it's amazing. You get all this passive income. And then there was all these other musician friends that I had who couldn't sell music anymore. Nobody was buying CDs, nobody was buying albums. And they were like, dude, how are you like making a living making music? And I was like, well, what I did was I put an actual meaning and purpose and intention behind it. Something that had kind of been lost in the music industry. And this is the thing, Safta only picked bands that were had a message. Like all of the bands that he signed and worked with, they changed the industry in some way. They had a huge impact in the industry. So, but he felt there was a huge void in the music industry. Like, people had lost their kind of soul a bit. They were just making music because it was either cool, trendy, it got them, advert deals, or, it got them sponsorship deals, with brands that they didn't even really believe in. And a lot of people were just doing things for the money. So that wasn't what I was about. And that's probably why I never fitted into that industry. But when I realized that you can actually add more value to an MP3 by packaging it with actually stuff that helps your health, it was like going back to the roots of our spiritual origins of Hinduism, of this Vedic belief systems, yoga, which is, music is medicine, it's healing, it's a tool, it's spiritual, it gets you closer to God. When you get into these trance states, it's like you can connect to the divine. And so I actually started to go back into my roots. So I healed myself, and I started to get back into the roots of the Vedas and where yoga originates from as well, and all these ancient kind of ethnic traditions and practices, African shamanism, and listen to all these different tribal music from different parts of the world, different cultures. And you could see that there was this like common link between a lot of them, which was using mantra, sounds, breath, and rhythmic kind of hypnotic music and grooves that got you into a trance and a frenzy, you know. So I started to look at some of the pranayama techniques and realized actually that there's one breath technique, kumbhaka. It's the most revered technique in pranayama, which is all about breath retention. And when you hold your breath with no air in the lungs, okay, it's literally like pressing defrag switch on your brain. And you pretty much, we've had a science experiment done that proves this. You switch off the part of the brain where thoughts come from, the voice in your head, which is your ego, your sense of self, what you give meaning to the world. And it quietens it right down, right? And what we found in the studies is it leaves this gamma brainwave frequency. And I started to go back into this technique where you use rhythmic breathing. And what this rhythmic breathing does is it charges up prana, energy within the body. Like a magnet, you become magnetically charged. You'll feel it when you do it. And if you do it perfectly with a rhythm, so the beats, so you have like 120 BPM track with a beat, you count in a rhythm, in and out, exactly to that, precisely to that beat. It creates this state called coherence in your nervous system, right? It brings this amazing balance. And it's like you create like a battery-like effect. You change the polarity of your bloodstream itself. You actually alter the chemistry of your blood. So the more you do this, the more charged up you get. It also allows you to hold your breath for extended periods of time. And what happens is when you do this technique and you hold your breath beyond a certain point, you create this positive stress response in the body. It's this low oxygen state called intermittent hypoxia. And your body adapts and gets stronger, right? But it also has this defrag-like effect on your operating system, your mind. When your computer gets cluttered, right, you got to press defrag. Same thing with us. And this is so this tool was like a two-in-one tool. It was like, not only did it have health benefits for making you very efficient using oxygen, that's a whole other story in itself. Like longevity and your efficiency to oxygen is linked. So how slow your breathing rate is related to how long you live. So animals that have very slow breathing rates, they breathe, they're like elephants and turtles. They breathe like 2 to 4 breaths a minute. They live like over 100 years, right? Animals that don't live a long time, they're very fast breathing rates, 20, 40 breaths per minute. And they are like rats and mice. And there's an anomaly to that. The naked mole rat, I always say it funny, the naked mole rat, all right? It's a tongue twister. Basically, they are also rats, but they live, guess how long? They live 30 years, right? Instead of 1 year. And the one key difference between them and normal rats who only live like 1 year is that these rats live underground and mostly no oxygen environments. They can hold their breath for like 18 minutes at a time. And whales are another a mammal. They can hold their breath for like 2 hours and they live like 200 years plus, right? So this is really interesting. In the animal kingdom, there are signs of animals that are very adapted using oxygen live longer. So they need to breathe less. And oxygen itself is corrosive to the body, right? It actually creates a rusting effect inside your blood vessels. And it leads to like plaques forming and heart disease. And that's why you need antioxidants. It protects against oxidative stress, inflammation. So what I realized was the entire science of Tantra, yoga, these ancient practices, was about slowing your breathing rate down and being able to hold your breath for long periods of time. Not only does this give you a sign that you are very efficient using oxygen, you need less oxygen to breathe, so you have a healthier body, but also when you hold your breath for long periods, like several minutes at a time, you go into these deep, profound altered states of consciousness, and you can speak one-on-one with the unconscious mind, right? You go into these very deep meditative states. And when you hold your breath for long enough, actually, you get very low oxygen levels, and you go into this like samadhi-like state, this euphoric ecstasy bliss state, right? It feels incredible. And with certain rhythms of breath as well, you can create this ecstasy-like feeling. And what I realized was actually, this came from the ancient practice of SOMA. So SOMA comes from the Rig Veda, is the world's oldest religious manuscript. And in there, the rishis were addicted, these ancient yogis were addicted to drinking SOMA, this substance. Nobody knows what it is, but it gives you immortality. It makes you live forever with full of health. You become superhuman, you have psychic powers, and you can speak to the divine, right? It's like this magic drug. And they're all dependent on it for its health, on your health, for your health. And then one day it runs out, or it gets controlled and they can't use it anymore. And the gods freak out because they're all addicted, and they have to go inwards to discover how to create the soma within. And that is the origins of Tantra and yoga and these practices, which is the science of getting into these altered states of consciousness by holding your breath in certain ways. And what this does is it wakes up the power of your endogenous, like tryptamines, DMT, and substances that are like psychedelic in nature. And when you hold it long enough, you basically trick your brain into thinking you're dead, right? Because your brain, it doesn't understand that when you get to a certain point, whether you're alive or not, right? When your oxygen levels go to a certain point. So you go into this unconscious trance state. And that's where you have these divine, like extreme, profound spiritual awakening experiences. So I believe that what I created, what I revived, was this ancient practice of soma, of creating the soma within, right? And I'd made it a little bit more accessible with the music. I made it a bit more fun, using more modern cutting edge music, and using this kind of transcendental grooves and stuff that gets you into this euphoric kind of state, that euphoric trance music. If you just take off the beats and you change the tempos of it, it's really powerful what it can do with the breath. It takes you into these altered states of consciousness. And what happened was then I started to travel around the world, and I met people like Wim Hof, you may have heard of. He's like a superhuman, and climbed up Everest in his shorts and ran a marathon in a desert without drinking water, and crazy feats. And I actually had created a website called the Renegade Pharmacist. I wanted to share just all my my content. So many people asked me, how did you heal yourself? So I just gave it for free on this site, and it got really popular. And I made this infographic about Coca-Cola that just blew up the internet, which was what happens 1 hour after drinking a can of Coke. And it went crazy viral. It was on like Fox News. It was on the front page of loads of newspapers around the world and magazines. And
what does happen, if I may jump in there just to divert you a second?
So I'll try and make it simple. So what I observed in the pharmacy, this is one of the reasons I was so good at getting people off the drugs, is because I saw a huge correlation between fizzy drinks consumption and medication. It was just, they went hand in hand. It was so common for people who drank fizzy drinks to be on lots of pills. So I just made simple swaps, stop drinking fizzy drinks and start drinking water, and add some natural flavoring like lemon juice, or make teas out of that, with a little bit of honey for sweetening rather than 3 cups of sugar, right? Three spoonfuls of sugar. And so I saw that there was this huge correlation. Then what happened was, when I was making the Renegade Pharmacist site, I saw some research on this timeline of what happens 1 hour after you drink a can of Coke. And I found it quite interesting. So I was like, I'm going to present this in a cool way. And I made an infographic. And I was one of the early people to use infographic to show health information. And it just blew up. It went crazy because it was really kind of scary stuff. I did incite a little bit of fear into the coke addicts, because I was saying things like I was basically comparing it to cocaine and its effects, because it is. It used to have cocaine in it, Coca-Cola, right? That's why it's called Coca-Cola. It was made with coca leaf, and it had cocaine in it. So they needed it to be as addictive as the original drink for it to be mass marketable. And the owners who bought it, they didn't care if it didn't have cocaine in it anymore. It was when it was made illegal, they were like, whatever we can find. And it ends up that Coca-Cola has like an insane amount of sugar in it, like such a crazy amount of sugar. It's ridiculous, like 10 teaspoons or something.
One can is more than you want in a day.
Oh yeah, way more. Yeah. And then it also has the acid of phosphoric acid. And it's that combination that is very corrosive. It actually is used to clean things, like as a disinfectant.
People clean pennies, turn like a dirty old penny into a shiny.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So here's the thing: you could argue this, and I am willing to change my original. I already did. I said, like, in moderation, Coke's okay. I did say that in the article. I said, look, in moderation is fine. One a day is gonna not kill you. One can, or one using as a treat once a week or something. But people are drinking 2-liter bottles a day of this stuff. But I think that maybe because it's so powerful as an antiseptic and a cleaner, that maybe a few sips of it when you're not feeling very well, it might actually kill the bugs in your belly. So, it may have a positive effect. Like some people drink alcohol. They make a hot toddy with brandy and different herbs, and basically it kills like throat viral bacteria in the throat, viruses in the throat. So, Coca-Cola may have some kind of use like that, but it's not meant to be a beverage that you consume in place of water and things like that. The way it's been marketed, it's over the top. Anyway, so that's how I got to know Wim Hof, actually, because they wanted me to do an infographic on him, and I was really into the breath, and we had similar techniques as well with what he was doing. So, and then I wanted to meet a man who had done what I'm so glad he did and I didn't have to do, and that was climb up a mountain in his shorts to prove to the world that this shit works, to get the world to take this stuff seriously, because we've been so conditioned and brainwashed into this very toxic lifestyle. Disease rates are through the roof. People have forgotten how to be healthy. And the educational system is just so lacking in central knowledge, and this whole situation with coronavirus has made that even more apparent to the world, how little we know about these things. So anyway, actually, it turned out that Wim was an amazing singer, and he kept playing the guitar non-stop at his house. When I was trying to do the interview with him, he's like singing songs. So, but when I went back to watch the video, like of the interview, he kept singing this one song, Crazy Like a Monkey. And I was like, dude, this is a catchy song. We should produce this. So I went to his house the next day and I was like, dude, let's make a song, right? I hear you keep singing this song. Let's make one. I'm a music producer. He goes, what? I go, yeah, I'll bring all my gear. I had my portable studio. He goes, oh man, move in. And literally I moved in with him. And every day we would like be doing crazy like ice baths and yoga techniques and breathing like wild, crazy, mad people. Recorded this song. We made a little music video for it. And then I was like, look, let's make the soundtrack to this method that you've got and let's get it out there. And he was the perfect frontman. And that's literally what happened. We produced the soundtrack and we wrote a few songs together, and I was like, fuck, I found the guy. I found the lead singer. The one, Safta always told me, you've got to find the lead singer of your band. You've got to find a vocalist. You need that. That's the only way to cross over. Because all I had was music by then. And I was like, I've got him. I've got this crazy guy. He's like perfect. And it's a message and he's got meaning and he can sing. It's all good. And that was a time when Safta had a brain tumor and died. He literally died during that time. So it was like, damn, it was like he never got to see the fruits of all of the endeavors that we went on. But I feel like he's still here because things have just been so magic. I feel his spirit is still here. It's channeling me, it's channeling through me because so many amazing things have manifested. Like back then, Wim wasn't that famous. Now he is like a household name. Everyone's heard of Wim Hof. I'm sure in New York, a lot of people heard his name and are doing the method. He's definitely opened the doors. And also our movement with SOMA Breath. What I created is a school that focuses a lot more on these traditional practices, and it goes deeper into the science and of these different techniques. It's not just one technique, and it complements Wim very well. And we're still very tight. And I wrote an album with him recently. It's on his website. Him and his son, and we're on this mission together, which is bringing back music, the love, the spirit, the science, the techniques for actually how to get healthy and happy, and and to be resilient to stress, which is so when life throws all this shit at us, which it will, we have a way to handle it and stay in our in our presence. So that's pretty much the journey now. Now we've got like an instructor network. I've got almost 1,000 instructors around. I think over 1,000 instructors now around the world. We're being mentored by Zumba. Zumba are an amazing role model for us because they did the same thing with dance. They put music to fitness, right? And made fitness fun. And they've got like 250,000 instructors around the world. They're like a record label in themselves. If they want to release a song, if an artist wants to release a song, they do it with Zumba. That kind of genre of music, and it blows up and they get like a #1 hit. So that's happening with us now. We're getting like a big community, and we can start launching tracks to this community. And and I really believe the community is a cure, and I want to encourage more artists to do that, to get a good vibe going. Like right now we need people to put out music that has a message, that is about bringing unity to people, connection. And that's so I'm all for that. And a lot of artists are coming into our community and making music for what we do, with the breath and the music combined. So it's been really good to see.
Yeah, that's a pretty interesting new kind of model almost for record company, where it has like that kind of purpose to it, that other thing, that other aspect, and because the audience is already there in that case, and the community is there. Yeah, I find this like really interesting because I do vividly remember being just a child and hearing music while I was in a bad mood and feeling better after it, like it changed me.
Yeah.
And I think that has been like probably the thing that keeps bringing me back in a lot of ways, when you get together with people and you play music and you're connecting. And I've literally joked with friends that I've played music with, saying, I bet if we all took our heart rate right now, we'd be in sync, or like our minds are just like, you just feel it. It almost, I guess I was going to say, you just know when it happens. You almost like have to not know it's happening at the same time. But
Totally.
there is this kind of other level, this other wavelength. And I guess I just find this like really interesting that it does, according to what you're finding, have an actual impact on your body and your health. Because there are obviously like lots of literature and research about like the effects of, say, stress on the body. And if you have something like music that can reduce that and change those mindsets and alter your negative feelings, or even take your negative feelings and turn it into something positive, some kind of expression, I could imagine we might just be on the tip of the iceberg of what could be possible.
Oh, totally. Actually, there was a really good study done by Sir David Hawkins. And he was actually a psychiatrist. So what he did was he studied the effects of different types of music using muscle testing. All right. And he says that this is interesting. Whereas virtually all classical music and most pop music cause a universally strong response, the hard or heavy metal rock, the first gained acceptance in the 70s, produced a universally weak response. That's strange, right? Mm. So he says that among our test subjects, punk rock, death rock, and gangster rap music made every subject go weak.
By weak,
right?
What do you mean by strong and weak?
So have you ever heard of muscle testing?
No, I don't think so.
So muscle testing is where you can do these tests where you put your hand out and you can push a person's hand down. You say a word like their name. You say Brian, right? And they'll create a strong response where you can't easily push the hand down. You can try this with food. Like you can put like sugar cubes, which you know aren't good, in your hand. You're unconscious, your body knows it's not good for you, and it will go weak. You put like a piece of fruit there that's good for you, right? And your hand stays strong. It's strange. Your unconscious mind has a different intelligence to your conscious mind, and it creates a response, unconscious response. You can do it with many different things. Lies are a good one. Like, if you say your name, you are called Brian or you are called Niraj. If I said you are called Niraj, your hand would go weak, right? And you can do it a few times and it basically creates a test. So for some reason, like dark gangster rap and things like that made people go weak. And then he says that the music of Bach makes everyone go strong, even if they don't personally like it. How interesting is that? Just as heavy metal makes all subjects go weak, even if they personally prefer it. How weird is that?
That is weird.
So
and I think sometimes, like if some of that music, heavy metal, punk, some types of rap too, will have like this, people will work out to it. They'll exercise because it's like, gets you kind of intense and psyched,
pumped.
But is that in a negative way? Is it? So I guess what I'm asking is like, is it some feature of the music, or is it the message, or some combination that causes that?
It could be just the vibe, right? It's like angry music makes people unconsciously angry. It's like resonance. It makes people angry, and inside unconsciously he puts on the fight and flight response, and you go weak, right? Your body rejects it unconsciously. It could also, that's probably the explanation is. The vibe, the vibration of the energy. It makes like gangster rap and things like that. The lyrics gets you kind of angry, like you're going to fight, right? So that maybe has this effect on your muscle testing. That is a weak response. But calming, soothing music, your body calms down. The vibe of the music, the artist itself is a pure positive vibe. It's not a hostile vibe, No. I don't know if you've ever hung out with like been in gangs of people. They're always on edge. I grew up in that kind of rave culture and hung out with people. There's a few gangs on the streets sometimes, and it's just after a while, like you think it's cool at first, but after a while, it's like it's a hostile environment. Like people are on edge all the time.
Yeah.
Because I was a bit different from a lot of people there. I came from a academic background and things, and a lot of people just grew up living on the streets, really harsh environments. And they didn't want to be living in those environments. It was not their fault. They didn't want it. They didn't choose it. But inevitably, some of them would end up into drugs and then build like empires around that. I got to know some, peeps like that, and we became friends. And but they were like always like looking to me for some kind of spiritual support, because it was a dark environment. I really believe that this has been manufactured. I believe that the music industry has manufactured music of a bad vibe on purpose to create certain types of cultures that are easy to manipulate, control, to divide, and keep suppressed. Like, look at it. Just look at the kind of stuff coming out on the mainstream. Like, people like, just look at the Lady Gaga, who's meant to be like a role model for so many kids, right? Her artwork on her labels, it's dark stuff, man. It's like something out of a really dodgy B movie, Madonna, and where are all those good role models, man, who stood for positive stuff? Like where are the people like the Beatles and stuff like that? So there's a lot of darkness in the world, and I think the music culture has something to do with that.
Well, I think I can kind of see what you're saying on a level. On the other hand, I could also see, one thing I think I know, I'm not listening to a lot of Lady Gaga music or much in my time, but I do see, and I could say this probably for Madonna too, kind of like an empowerment thing, like self-confidence message coming out. But to get back to the other point, I thought was just interesting. Like, if you are in like that, my gang experience is zero, but one thing I have noticed about that kind of lifestyle, or anything really that has like just any kind of negative emotion, leaves you in this low level stress all the time. And I'm thinking, I think a lot about like, I teach high school English. So I see like sometimes some kids that are in like difficult situations, or are trying to, I guess, act tough and angry as like a defense mechanism. And there's always this kind of like constant hum going on of aggression or anger or defensiveness that you can see is damaging to a lot of just their outlook on the world, just being skeptical of people when they're being helpful, or
and of course, empowerment, people should be free. I'm a very liberal person myself, so, but there's taste as well, like there's being intelligent and graceful, and a lot of these things started to get lost. Like I used to love like Mos Def and some of those like Roots Maneuver and those kind of hip hop artists that had a message, amazing beats, really positive vibes, and they didn't like talk about knifing their neighbors and and screwing prostitutes and things like that. The lyrics had a bit more depth to it, a lot more depth to it. But you see in the mainstream, like the music that's been propagated and pushed, versus there's so much good music out there. The stuff that gets like filtered and projected to the masses.
yeah,
There's an occult black magic going on. Mm-hmm. I'm not the only person who says this. There's like whistleblowers from that industry as well who all say the same stuff, and they've been victims of it. And I do believe there is a darkness to the music. I've seen it. I went into it for a while when I went to MEDEM, the music conference in Cannes. I've been there, and I've sat on a table where I was having these people coming for meetings left and right, the most sleazy, slimy. They would do anything. They would bend over and do anything for a deal, So that's why I fell in love with the music industry, because I felt like some of the values that I adhere to started to get lost. And what I'm liking now is that the stuff we're doing now, there's still a way for you to channel what you want. Be creative. You can go into the dark, the shadow side, but there's some therapeutic benefit to it other than, I mean, we don't, we're not putting out a dark message into the world. We're not bragging about what we just did yesterday to our, our friend's mother. Do you know what I mean? There's some taste. So this is what I've been trying to bring back. And I really think we need to bring this back more. Yeah,
so I can see what you're saying, that if it's going to sell, then that's the guiding principle. So if we tap into maybe some of these more superficial topics, and I saw a study or an article or something about just like the changes in the vocabulary of popular music, and words like love from the song have been replaced with like booty. Like that was like literally like something like they found like these like interesting changes over time. And it's something funny happens, I guess, with art, is that it reflects the culture, and it also creates the culture at the same time. There's a little bit of like a feedback loop that happens, where once that becomes the norm, it becomes more normal every single time.
What's really interesting is how drugs have changed through the music industry. So basically, when I was really hitting it hard with the raves, we had the best ecstasy ever. This stuff would take you into a whole new dimension of love, right? It was just unbelievable nirvana, like experiences. And everyone was on it. So everyone was so loved up. But as that got really commercial, there was a point in like 97, 98, things just became, boom, exploded. The DJ magazine, Mixmag, they became really popular, and Ibiza was the place to go. And, London was just crushing it with like so many different DJ dance clubs, events. Then the underworld got involved with the drugs, and the quality of drugs got significantly worse. They got cut with so much stuff, and cocaine hit the industry big time, and then ketamine. And what you notice, what happened as the drugs devolved, is more and more people started going to the parties who were just there to take photos of themselves on the dance floor, to share with, and get likes on Instagram. And then you'd see VIP tables with cocktails and, massive bottles of vodka and tequila, people spending $1,000, $2,000 just like that, in these amazing clubs in Ibiza. Like, it was just so weird. And in London, when you went out, people were just zombies. Nobody was dancing. They were just like zombies, like just was so weird. It was just weird. It was like the soul started to get lost. People get, ketamine's a dissociative, so it takes you totally out of your body. So people weren't even present with the music anymore, And so I just started to fall out of my love with that kind of music. And then when I was in Copenhagen, I lived here, all these like hippies were playing music, like really cool music of different genres. So it wasn't just the same all night. It was all different ethnic music, world music, dance music, tribal. And it was all sequenced into one like journey. And it was more like a meditation. You go there, you're not allowed to talk. You are not meant to touch anyone like without permission. And you're not meant to talk. You're not meant to have a phone. You're not allowed to take photos, nothing. And you're just there for the music. And boom, I'm telling you, it was like going back to 1997. It was like, and no drugs or alcohol. That was the other thing. Alcohol killed it for a lot of people in the music. But anyway, the vibe was so good. And I was like, holy shit, I'm having an amazing time like I used to without taking any drugs. And then what I decided to do was put the breath into that. And I started to create this thing called breathing beats. And we would do these like 2-hour like events where people would just get high off their breath. Because when you do a certain breath technique with music and a rhythm, you just get super high. Like it's like you're on MDMA or something. And I started to take this on tour. So the last couple of years, I've just been going around the world taking this on tour. I even did some stuff with Wim. Just last year in Thailand, he came here. We did like some parties here. It was awesome. And so I've been really wanting, until this coronavirus stuff happened, I've been really wanting to create this culture. You may have heard of the scene of ecstatic dance.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much what it is. And what I love about it is that there's no rules of what you can play, right? So, but it's got to be a journey. So you don't just play the same genre all night long. You've got to take people on a journey. And it's so good like that, you know? Like that was something that was missing. Like you usually go to a club and it's just the same beat all night long. And DJs would be like mafia. They'll be like, if you don't play this beat like this, you know, with this kind of hi-hat, you know, you can't DJ and things like that. It got really weird at one point how anal and possessive DJs were about what they played. And then you come here and it's just completely different kind of scene, so much freedom and expression. So I've been really wanting to bring that back to the world.
There's definitely some kind of altered mind state you can get into kind of quick, honestly, when you are listening to music. And especially, I think, at the loud volumes where you're feeling the music through your body.
Yeah, the pulse in your heart.
Yeah, and you kind of said something that I think about a lot about like getting, I think you said the zombies were out of their bodies, but what you seem to be talking is more like going within the body. And I found like some of these similar experiences that happen like with music when you feel the music, and there's something about loud music. It touches you. The sound waves literally touch you and you feel it. And, you know, they even sell like sub packs now that you can put in your chair so you can feel the bass. Just because a lot of that low energy is felt more than it's heard. What was I going to say? But it does change your mindset. And a lot of the activities that I actually enjoy myself that aren't music, some of the exercise or some martial arts or yoga, have to do with using the body to get to the mind, or kind of like making that connection that
totally
that brings it all together. And so I wanted to ask you how that plays in with the ecstatic dance, and maybe even just like a definition for me and for anyone that might not be familiar with that. Like what exactly is ecstatic dance, and how is that different from maybe just like going to the club and dancing all night with your friends?
Great. So I kind of explained it already, which was there are some rules. The rules are you don't talk, you are mindful of people's space, so girls don't get hit on, you know, like that. No alcohol, so you don't get sleazy people who stink. And no drugs. No legal drugs anyway. And the music shouldn't be one genre. It should be a journey. The music should be a journey of music. So it takes you on like a you know, roller coaster ride kind of thing. And that's pretty much it. And quite often these are done at yoga centers or like fitness clubs, you know. And the dancing, there is no rules. So at my retreat, like people go wild, man. And one of the things I do is we blindfold everyone. So when you cut off the eyesight, the senses of the eyes, something changes. You stop giving a shit, right? And I don't know about you, but I'm one of these people, when I go into dance floor, I get conscious of what. Yeah. Am I looking all right? Am I looking like an idiot?
Absolutely. So many people don't get on the dance floor for that very reason.
Because of that reason, right? Put on the blindfold. No one can see you. and you can't be seen, and you can't see anyone. So you just let it go. And when I'm DJing and there's all these blindfolded people, they proper let it go, man, like nobody's business.
That's cool.
So these are some of the things we do. It's like what they used to do, the ancient mystics. They do like things like the whirling dervish. You'll see them, they'll spin round, the Sufis, right? They'll spin, 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 spin. So this like hypnotic tribal music. And they would go out of their mind, but they would be very present at the same time. So they're having this ecstatic experience, you know. So there are different, I would say what I used to do, the raves back in the day, were ecstatic dance. People got connected to God. They had an ecstatic experience, like a peak human experience, where they were at a peak state of joy, you know, the highest kind of states of mind. And it's an amazing workout because you're not taking drugs, you're not drinking alcohol, and you're dancing like crazy for like 2 hours. So it's an amazing exercise. It's like Zumba a little bit, but without the set dance moves. Do you know what I mean? And the music's got different genres to it. So yeah, it's great. I love it. It's such a cool thing. Yeah, but what I brought into it is the breath, the breathing techniques that takes it to another level. Like, yeah.
Well, you know, like you said, you get out of your head and you stop worrying, you stop caring. I mean, that's always one of the biggest things that prevents people from getting on the dance floor. And like that's like the challenge, you know. Anytime I'm at some event and there's dancing, it's this get over yourself thing that you have to kind of do. But even while you're out there, it's very easy to slip into that feeling of self-consciousness. And you know, I know I don't know what I'm doing dance-wise, so you know, who has found me out, you know, who's watching me and realizing this. But with the ecstatic dance, so there's not even any concern about like if you're dancing well technically, or it's just this physical expression. See that,
and the girls love it because they don't get hit on. Yeah, and it's full of like beautiful, fit, healthy girls who do yoga. You know, who are there for the music, and we're all there for the music, and you know, everyone's just feeling the love, man, and that's what I love about it. You know, whereas quite often, I went to Ibiza last summer and I went to some of the clubs, and my friend's a well-known DJ out there, and she took me to some and she goes, look, I know you're going to be shocked at what it's like now, but she hates DJing there now. She's kind of quit because it's just like VIP tables and, you know, and people drinking like Patron and getting smashed and zombies everywhere. Like, so totally a different vibe to what we were feeling. I mean, there's still a lot of amazing parties as well. There's a lot of good, amazing dance parties. You know, some of the mainstream venues, they're just not as fun as they used to be. No, that's all.
Right. Yeah, that aspect, you know, that's always...
I sound like an old man now, you know?
Well, you know, I think probably most people can relate to that. Like... Yeah, it can get sleazy, you know, especially when the alcohol gets involved and the nights get late, and
yes,
you know, that can quickly take a lot of the fun out of it, and it's probably also responsible for a lot of the inhibition and self-consciousness that people feel is maybe due to some of that lingering in the air. So how does the breathing factor into this? Is it like very guided instruction you're doing, or is it still kind of loose?
So we have different techniques, and I can just talk you through the basic stuff. So when you breathe in a rhythm, right? When you breathe in, you actually stimulate the sympathetic nervous system. That's the part of the nervous system that creates energy. When you breathe out, you stimulate parasympathetic. That's what calms the body down. It puts you into rest mode, right? And when you breathe in a perfect rhythm, it balances the nervous system together. When you breathe fast rhythms, you produce a lot of prana, a lot of energy. Pranayama means energy control. So faster rhythms, you produce a lot of energy. And what it also allows you to do is hold your breath for long periods of time when you breathe in a rhythm for several times, because you breathe out all the carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is what tells your brain to breathe again. So it allows you to hold your breath longer when you've got less carbon dioxide. And when you hold your breath for a long enough time, you create positive stress in the body, and you get this adaptive change going on where your body adapts to having less oxygen. You produce more red blood cells, you get better blood flow, better circulation, and your body just gets stronger. Okay?
Now, can I just ask you one quick question?
Yeah.
Is that related to why a lot of athletes like to train at high altitudes for that?
Very good. Very, very good point. So in the 1968 Olympics, Mexican Olympics, a lot of athletes were breaking world records, and they wanted to figure out why. They realized that it was because athletes were training at high altitudes. So that actually kicked off the whole movement of high altitude training. Russian scientists discovered that athletes that go and live in the Himalayas for a bit and come down, well, they go to the top of mountains and come back down again, they would report feeling better, their fitness and stamina would go up. So they wanted to figure out why. And what they realized is that the body adapts to that low oxygen environment, and you get more red blood cells, your stamina improves, you get better blood flow going to your organs. You get more efficient using oxygen. So actually the Nepalese who live at these high altitudes, naturally the Sherpas, who climb up and down mountains, they're really strong and healthy, very robust people. And actually the Gurkha army from Nepal are the strongest army in the world. They're the ones that are brought in to win the battles by the British and the Americans. So what you just said there is bang on the money. So what the yogis figured out was actually how to create the same effects on the ground, on your sea level, which is using rhythmic breathing followed by breath retention. And this would create this positive response. It would be like simulating the high altitudes. And it would make a strengthening for your whole body. It was an amazing, amazing thing. So this is what the studies are showing. That's why Wim Hof is also very popular. Is he used these techniques to break all these records himself. He's an athlete, a very extreme athlete. He's done some crazy stuff. And you can also use it for healing. So I used it to heal myself from this colitis. And we've observed a lot of people who've done our programs have amazing results at reversing colitis, right? And other autoimmune type conditions. And what I think is going on here is that we're waking up the power of stem cells, inner stem cells that basically have the ability to turn into any other cell in the body. You've heard of stem cells, right?
Right.
So we have these very small embryonic stem cells. And I was talking to a stem cell scientist, and I was asking, how do you activate the stem cells? And basically they use low heat or extreme temperatures, so extreme hot or extreme cold, because these stem cells are inactive, right? And they use low oxygen. I was like, okay. And also the womb, when you're in the womb, you are a bundle of stem cells. And you're in a very low oxygen environment. When you're born, you get oxygen, like proper doses of oxygen, into your whole circulatory system, because you have to breathe yourself. The stem cells disappear. So stem cells don't like oxygen. They love hypoxic environments. Okay? So what we realize is that actually with breath retention techniques, where you create a short, brief period of intermittent hypoxia, breathe lower than normal oxygen, we're waking up the power of stem cells. This is what explains like the healing effects that we get. We've had people who have suffered from COVID who've made remarkable recoveries, who've been on their deathbeds. They're pure evangelists now, because of these techniques. And I have people who have had bike accidents who have their scar tissues just healed so much quicker. There's very little scarring. When doctors said that this is going to take so much longer to heal. I broke my bone in 3 places in my foot once, and I healed way quicker than doctors thought. So we've created all these systems now of being able to help people with different issues, not just like physically, but spiritually, mental health, depression. And it's become very powerful. It's like a pharmacy of different breathing practices, that we do.
When you mention the stress levels getting increased, it makes me think about like ice baths and saunas. Do you?
There you go. So I just came from the sauna just now. So the sauna is the sauna is amazing because it's heat shock. You have to go into this hot 80 to 100 degree saunas. It creates a heat shock. And I think this wakes up these stem cells as well. I mean, none of this is fully proven, but this is my hypothesis. Extreme heat and then extreme cold as well. Like, as I said, like what they use in a lab is either extreme cold or heat or low oxygen. So why the Wim Hof Method is all about the ice, has amazing healing benefits. There's already a wealth of science on saunas and the fact that it stimulates massive amounts of growth hormone. Stem cells are very hard to measure their activity because they're active and then they move and they disappear very quickly. So because they don't like oxygen. So and then when the heat reduces, they are inactive. So it's hard to measure what's going on. But they say that just a 20-minute session of a sauna at 80 degrees creates like a 3 to 5 times the amount of growth hormone production. It dramatically stimulates neurogenesis in the brain. There's a reason why all these ancient people would go in a sauna, And the same thing with ice baths. And
maybe just to be clear for everyone, I think you're talking about Celsius, right? 80 degrees Celsius. Not
Celsius,
Fahrenheit is like kind of
comfortable.
That's
not hot enough. Yeah, totally.
I did one of the cryo chambers once. I was given a gift certificate to do that. And it's this thing where you stand in this kind of like tube and your head sticking out and they just pump, I think it was nitrogen, which is just incredibly cold. And I stood in there for, I think, 2 minutes or 3 minutes or so. And the whole time, the man in there was just like, I'm just going to talk to you just to distract you a little bit here because this is going to be pretty tough, especially being my first time. But when I got out of that, and it was like, as I'm doing it, I'm like, there's a point where I'm just trying to survive, like mentally trying to. A lot of it, I wasn't maybe doing any specific exercise, but I was paying a lot of attention to just trying to breathe smoothly and calmly. But when I got out of there, I felt like I was ready for anything. I mean, just invigorated and eyes wide open, ready for action.
Ah, yes. Well, there you go. That could be your body's just rejuvenating itself. You're boosting it creates a hormetic stress response where your body produces adrenaline and other hormones, growth hormone, and it kind of wakes up your whole nervous system as well. And healing goes on. It happens, Yeah.
And now, what about fasting? Is this also a similar type of effect, or is that something different?
Fasting also has, so anything that creates like a brief trauma to your body, like a short period of stress, not like chronic. Chronic is where it goes on for long durations. This is a short burst of stress, high intensity exercise. Fasting is actually, it kind of puts a little bit of a stress on the body. So your body's forced to start using its own supply of nutrients. So when you do that, there's a point, if you do it long enough, where you actually can stimulate stem cells to wake up as well and kick into action. So that's another way. So you look at a lot of these ancient practices, are all about creating a positive stress response. You know, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. You know, like in the like kind of Russian cultures, the sauna and cold is very, very core part of their practice. Japanese have, you know, they love saunas as well. It's a core part of their culture, and then they also fast as well. You know, so these ancient practices, religions and cultures, they have these traditions that we now, this new, young, immature society that is, you know, the Western society that which has now actually kind of been exported to these other parts of the world, like Japan and India. India, for example, had so much rich traditions. They've all been lost through the generations because they become so corporatized and commercialized, and you know, and the humans have gone away from their powers, the superpowers. They've gone towards becoming weak versions of who they can be, full of you know, artificial foods and junk and alcohol, and you know, just culture's devolved, man, big time, really has.
Yeah, I guess as everything gets exported across the whole world, it dilutes
Yeah,
everything. So
totally.
let me ask you this. Since we are on the music production podcast,
Yeah.
how does any of this factor into the way you produce music?
So I like the great thing, what's so freeing of being out of that old scene that I was in and got into this ecstatic dance scene is that there's no rules to genres. You can, so I have now made music. If you go to my Spotify, there's so many different genres of music that I put out, right? There's meditation stuff, there's kind of Latin stuff, there's stuff with saxophones, there's stuff with hand pans and different African instruments, and then there's like dance music, there's trance music, there's drum and bass, you know, there's all these different genres. And when you put it all together, it's all my own music, but it's like a journey with different genres. So that was the most freeing thing, was breaking out of the dogma of what modern dance music had become, where you can only, it's like religion, you can only play minimal techno, or you can only play drum and bass, or you can only do house music, you know. And now there's all these sub genres within genres, you know. So like for me, it was so freeing just breaking out of that, where now I could like just be free to create whatever I really want to make, and it's all good, and people like that better. It was amazing. And then I got really into obviously the therapeutic music, so taking people on a journey with conscious, you know, unconscious and conscious journey with music and different sound effects and nature sounds, and bringing in real instruments. The handpan is such a hypnotic, beautiful instrument. So Wim Hof's son plays a handpan. My friend Hernan's one of the best in the world, and he has recorded loads of stuff with me. We have the sax. I use a lot of sax with my friend, my best friend's Orlando. He's an amazing, he plays like loads of instruments. So I use a lot of real music with electronic music. You know, I love Logic. It's just, I find it really easy to use. I've used Ableton now and then. It's also really good. But I also love like the fact that technology is so good. No one has an excuse now,
Yeah.
who's a musician, to not make music now as a creative outlet, even if you're just doing it for fun. Like the tools that are available, like things like Loop Cloud. Holy crap. That's the most incredible invention ever. I used to have stacks of sample CDs, and they'd all be broken and scratched, and you know, I'd lose them, and you know, I'd have racks of this stuff. Now I've got it all on the cloud. And then there's also Roland have a cloud, so you can get all the Roland synths, you know. And then you know, there's all these amazing like plugins for atmospheres and reverbs that we just didn't have, man. Like 1997, dude, I was using samplers. I was using like I think at one point we had an Atari that we were using, you know, and it's just incredible what we have now. So I'm just blessed now that I can. This is my career. This is what I do. Is just make music, and and it's doing really well. And we have all these instructors who maybe aren't musicians, but they can use our music as a therapeutic tool. So it's amazing. And then we have lots of musicians coming in, co-producing and engineering sounds, and it's just great.
Right.
Yeah.
That's something I wind up talking about a lot on this podcast, is having like that intention for your music and the point and the purpose.
Yeah.
And it seems like your idea of the digital pill and the therapeutic application really just you've got that right from the start. So
Yeah.
I find
it helps being a pharmacist.
Yeah, it's interesting that you come out of that world too, that you've seen, I guess you've kind of seen the trappings of industry in both pharmaceutical and music, where at their basis, I think they're both intended to help people, but then they can also get caught up in the what makes the most money aspect as well.
Yeah, when the underworld gets involved.
Yeah. But it's some really cool work, and I'm very interested in it. I'll have to check out some of these exercises and see how they work. But it's I could definitely see a lot of potential for this. Whereas
thank you, man.
A lot of the stuff that I enjoy, like, kind of connect in this way with the physical, the body, and the mental, and the creative, and it's cool to see that you're opening this up.
Oh, you'll have to check it out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, one the
tracks.
thing, probably the most powerful thing I learned from doing any kind of yoga was being in a stressful, difficult situation, tough position to hold. You're shaking as you're trying to hold the position, but your breath is still slow and smooth instead of like the panicked, stressed out. If you start breathing like that, you're never going to last.
No, you're right. You got it.
And that applies to
the
singing.
Thoughts are linked. Yeah. Actually, with these breathing techniques, we have some singers who are friends, like Barbara Tucker, who's a famous singer she's actually from New York, but lives in Ibiza. Amazing soul singer, and disco, like soul disco. And she said her voice just has got so much better doing this. Like the strength of her voice. And I have a few people who have said that their voices, even mine has got better. I can't sing, but my length of tone and my ability to like do Om chants, like keep a tone, like improves. Your lung capacity improves dramatically. Right. So for singing, this is amazing stuff. Like seriously, can really help singers. Yeah, to get better singers.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Well, all right. So where do you like to send people? We've got a couple places. I know we got somabreath.com. We got the renegadepharmacist.com. And then we can find you on Spotify and Apple Music. Is there like a hub, a main spot you like to send people?
Yeah, I think the best place would be SOMA Breath. That's the most current stuff that we're doing. And you can check out the music, and I go into the science. If you sign up for the masterclass there, I talk a lot about the science behind these techniques and show you some of the background. And you can also test out the meditation there as well. So that we do. And also on YouTube, if you go to SOMA Breath, subscribe to the channel. There's a lot of great content on there as well for free.
Yeah. Yeah, that's nice. It's a nice service too. So we'll get...
And if you go to the Wim Hof website, type in Wim Hof music, into YouTube, you'll find the album I've done with Wim. A bunch of songs.
Nice. Yeah, I'll have all this stuff in the show notes for people, so you can just click on the links. And Niraj, I thank you so much for your time and sharing this knowledge with everyone.
It's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Thank you so much.
And, thanks for your work, bringing positivity to people, helping them heal and feel better about themselves. If
trying.
we can make everyone in this world feel a little bit better about themselves and life, we'd probably have a much happier place.
Well, we need it now more than ever. Like we
Yeah.
have a lot of work to do. You know,
Yeah.
we're gonna rebuild the spirit of humans back to what they deserve to be. So, yeah,
All right.
it's gonna be an interesting time.
Well, thank you for doing your part and helping out with that.
And you too, brother. Thank you so much. Keep up the good fight, the good work.
Will do. And thank you, everyone, for listening. And we hope you have a great rest of your day.
Much love, everyone. Peace.